Hey guys, I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo23. As you guys well know, I live in Everett, Washington, and for the past week I've just wanted to do a range and accuracy test of the KWA KM4 RIS, but if you guys watch the news, it has been snowing like crazy out there. We've got literally like a foot of friggin' snow. I couldn't even get to class today at college. Shop surplus is closed. We're not even open today because of the snow. I can't drive to work, so obviously I cannot do a range and accuracy test. So I've been dying to open up this gun, this KWA KM4 RIS. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys today, so you can actually check out the internals. Now, they're very similar to most of the other KWA M4 and 16 series, SR10 for instance, that we looked at before. If you really want to see the internals of one of those, you can go check that out, but this is specifically for this gun, so I'm going to open this gun up, show all the minute details of how cool this gun is, because this thing, it's tuned phenomenally. I was running a LiPo battery on it for a while, been getting a great rate of fire, very consistent FPS. Each shot is within like 2 or 3 FPS of each other, so it's excellent. So I'm going to open this thing up and you guys can see how awesome KWA really is. So let's get down to it. So if you guys are expecting this to be a disassembly video, sorry, I'll get to that eventually, but here I'm just going to go over all the fine points of the internals. So you're going to kind of have to bear with me as far as where I jump around. I'm going to start with the hop-up assembly, the barrel, look at all that stuff. If you guys know about the KWA series, this is really basic stuff, and I've probably gone over this a lot of times in different videos, but I'm going to restate it a lot in this video when I get to it. Next I'll go over the motor and all that cool stuff, the stock, the wiring. Eventually we'll get to the gearbox. Now, I really like how this gun disassembles. It's just like the real AR-15, really similar to the ICS series, and, you know, the Tokyo Marui, all that good stuff. It's very, very similar to all that in that you just take the rear pin out and you can pretty much break the gun open, which is a really nice touch. They actually did KWA modified the version 2 gearbox here, so you can pull these 2 tabs through on either side of the gearbox. So it's a very nice touch, and I really like that. Now, KWA uses the standard Tokyo Marui kind of 2-piece chamber where it's got the feeder on the bottom and the actual chamber above it. Now, it acts just the same way. You've got the gearing mechanism here, the wheels, and pretty much the basic stuff for a hop-up unit. Now, I've got the hop-up fully engaged. You can see the kind of W design there. It's got the 2 fins, which is a pretty cool system. On this hop-up chamber, it gets a very good air seal and all that good stuff. That's not to say it will work in every hop-up chamber. I've had trouble with the KWA buckings in other chambers before. It works great in this chamber and only this chamber pretty much. So, like I said, it's got the W design that helps give a very consistent spin on each BB, makes it fly much straighter, and it really does help. Now, the barrel that comes in this gun is a 6.03 or slightly tighter barrel, which is pretty awesome. You could have a very, very tight barrel in this gun, a minimum of a 6.03, which is pretty dang cool. Usually those are going to run at least 30 to 40, even upwards of $100 for a really nice barrel. This one's brass, so brass is naturally the most accurate, smoothest barrel you can get for a gun. Forget about steel and all that stuff. I will go with a brass barrel any day over steel. Let's continue. The crowning on this barrel is really, really nice. It recedes pretty far into the barrel, about 7 or 8 millimeters, which is actually quite a bit. I've never seen crowning go that deep into a barrel. Now, the way the wiring and the buffer tube on the M4 RIS is designed, same as the SR10, the SR5, the SR7, really all of these models. The way they're designed, it kind of switches from like a thinly coated 18 gauge wire, which is, it's a really great wire for this gun. It fits very well and it's easy to work with, and it's pretty dang stiff, and it's silver cord, which helps lower resistance just a bit. Now on this, I don't know why, but they switch over from 18 to 16 gauge in this like stretchy coated wiring or whatever, and it's really dumb, I think, because it increases resistance on the entire system. So what I did was I cut off the mini Tamiya connector in there, put a Dean's connector on here, and I used the same wiring and just kind of extended it so it's far enough out that it will connect to the battery, and it kind of it works better for me. It's easier to install batteries, and I got rid of the fuse too, which is a nice design if you're wanting to keep the fuse. But if you're wanting to remove it, it's an aggravating design. So I got rid of the fuse, and I'll show you that right now. So the fuse would normally sit in this housing right here, and the bunging wiring would kind of sit up in the middle tube there where the buffer tube goes. And there was this screw and a small plastic bracket that would keep it on there. But the way I have it designed now, the little Dean's connector will pop out here in the center, and you've got a load more space to fit all your extra wiring, and you can even fit a cell in the center buffer tube, when it was actually, before, it was pretty annoying to do that. So I like the way I've done it. It's good for me, and it works for me very well. So if you guys wanted a closer look at the work I did on the wiring that runs through the buffer tube, this is it. It's pretty much 18 gauge here, switches to more or less 18 gauge here. This is wiring I picked up at work. It's really, really good wiring. I believe it's very similar to G&G, what they use in their guns. So I think it works pretty well, and it's got virtually no resistance right there. And plus, it's got Dean's connectors. Who doesn't want that in their gun? Now, the KWA motor I have no problem with, but hey, you could get a better motor. These motors have a pretty good rate of fire. They're not the most amazing, like I said, but they're good for a stock gun. Now, it says high torque. High torque in what world, please? They're a decent torque. They're about as much torque as a stock classic Army motor. It does have enough torque to pull the 110 or so spring that's in there, because you're getting about 390 to 400 out of most of these guns. But yeah, you could do better, like an upgrade amp or any kind of other motor like that. I'm personally probably going to throw my Systema Magna motor in here, because I'm going to want to upgrade the spring a little, so I'm going to want a little more torque, better response time and rate of fire. So you can do better. The shaft is metal, and it's got bearings on it, so it's kind of nice. It adds a little bit of durability. I've had plastic shaft gears or motors get beat up a little bit sometimes. The pistol grip, nicely enough, has brass screw holes, so you don't have to worry about those stripping out like on a lot of cheaper and other models. So that's a plus. You won't have to replace your pistol grip for a long time, unless for some reason you want to upgrade it. Now, KWA has this little sticker on the bottom of their version 2 gearboxes or whatever that says, do not remove this. Basically, if you do that, you void the warranty when you open it up or whatever. The glue on this thing is so cheap that you can just peel it right off with like a really thin knife. So that's kind of a waste of paper and glue to me. But whatever. I'm talented enough, and I know what I'm doing, so there's no point in me really taking the time to remove that, because I'm not going to break this thing. So you guys that don't know what you're doing, do not go past this point. In fact, don't even open up your gun. Alright, I've got the amazing, awesome, super crazy reinforced version 2 gearbox out of the body. Just looking at it, it is pretty dang dirty. I took my washcloth to it that I use for grease and whatnot, and I just removed as much of the trash as I could. There was a lot of, quite a bit of grease on the outside of it, a lot of trash, a couple of metal shavings, just a lot of dirt and crap. So, hey, no one's perfect, even KWA. Alright, the moment we've all been waiting for. The gearbox. Dang, this thing's look really nice. It's actually pretty much black, and it's hard for my camera to really get details. So that's why I'm going to pull everything out, and we'll check everything out individually and in detail. So first up, let's look at the cylinder assembly. Tappet plate. It's good quality. It's pretty stiff. I don't think it's going to break on you. The aluminum air nozzle. It is proprietary. It is aluminum. It's amazing. It's actually pretty heavy. It's got a little bar on top, and it's got the extra bar here so that it actually lines up properly with the tappet plate. It's really similar to the G36 series and how they do that. The cylinder head is pretty good quality plastic. It's polycarb, and it's stuck in there pretty good. You're not losing any air there. The cylinder is brass. It's pretty heavily greased in there, and the port here is in a good spot for a M4 series gun. You can move it up a little more and probably gain just a slight amount of FPS if you did that. Now the piston and piston head on this gun. The piston I really like, even though it's just drenched in this brown looking grease, and I really am not sure why, so I will clean that off pretty soon. Piston head is aluminum, has no ports as expected, and it does have the bearings underneath, it looks like, so that's a plus. When I put this in the cylinder, the air seal is just non-existent, so I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, I will get a new ported piston at work when I'm able to get there out of this dang snowstorm. So, I'll put a ported piston head in there because I am running a LiPo, and I do want to get my consistency out of this gun like I really want or really need. Right now, it's shooting a pretty consistent 395 or so, which is good. But I'm just not seeing it in the air seal here, so either it's a fluke or it's just not wanting to work on me today because I took it out of the gearbox. And I'm a bad, bad man for opening up the gearbox. Let's go ahead and look at the gearbox shell here before we move on to everything else that's cool in this gearbox. It does have the 9mm bearings in here, so that's pretty nice. Eventually, I will switch to solid metal bushings, but 9mm solid metal bushings are hard to find. I think the only company that makes them right now is 5KU, and only a handful of sites sell them, and they are mildly expensive because they're pretty limited parts. So I'll get those eventually. KWA bearings really are some of the most durable bearings you can get in a gun. At the shop that I work at, Surplus in Woodinville, we've only seen a handful of them fail compared to just about every other bearing on the market. So these are, without a doubt, the most reliable bearings out of pretty much any brand bearings you can get. Now, the front of the gearbox shell here, dang, that's about 4 or 5 times as thick as any other reinforced gearbox shell you can find. This is the most reinforced gearbox there is on the market today. If this thing cracks, it's going to be quite a while. Now, the KWA gear set is pretty dang nice. These are well lubricated, and they're shimmed pretty well, even though there really aren't any shims. So what I mean by that is the height on all the gears relative to each other is actually very good. Each gear gets sufficient contact that the possible weak points are almost non-existent. These are great gears. They are heat treated. You do get the sector chip here, so if you do decide to run this on a LiPo, you're probably not going to have any trouble feeding. The shaft on the spur gear here is pretty thick. I actually have seen these crack, so the fact that this has a very thick shaft is excellent. I doubt you're going to see that crack on you, actually. The bevel gear has a weird bevel on it, so it's to help durability and such. And it's just a cool looking gear set. I mean, compared to just a standard go get a GG gun, take it out of there, this is a really cool looking gear set, to be honest. And you can see here there's a little trench dug out in the sector gear so that you have less metal there. It's not going to weigh as much, it's going to have a faster stop time. So that there is a shim, and so is that. There are 2 shims in this gearbox. I always thought personally, this is what I heard from a lot of other people, that KWA gearboxes did not need to be shimmed because they were perfect. But I guess the world's wrong about that. KWA gear sets are great. Obviously KWA has tried to improve their guns. They're realizing that, hey, these are failing, we need to go shim them, blah blah blah. So I'd rather this be shimmed and sounding good than KWA have mass amounts of pride and just throw their gear sets out there and say, hey, these are perfect, they don't need to be shimmed. I would honestly rather have these a little slightly better shimmed. Now, the switch assembly is an excellent thing here. The contacts here, all of them, including on the selector plate on the other side of the gun, are gold plated. It's called LiPo Ready Electrical System. I have been running one of these on my ICS M4, just the switch assembly alone, for 50,000 rounds, and it's been flawless. I have not had any major electrical arcs or anything. I don't use a fuse in my ICS M4. This is probably the most reliable switch assembly, the mechanical switch assembly. That's not saying anything about MOSFETs or anything. It's the most reliable mechanical switch assembly you can buy. These will run for probably $30 or $40 aftermarket if you want to go pick one up from KWA. But you can see here that everything is gold plated, and you get a lot of contact when you pull the trigger. So great contact there. It's not going to, the contacts are going to take a long time to wear down. Head Tech at Surplus is telling me he's been running his KWA for over 80,000 rounds on an 11.1 volt LiPo. And he said it's like a 15 or 20C, and he has had 0 abrasion on the contacts, so that is really excellent. So if you really want an electrical system that is LiPo ready, this one right here will do it. Now, one thing I wish they would have done is made this little guy metal. This is the internal trigger safety. Basically, this is what stops your trigger from moving unsafe. I wish they had made that metal. I have had the plastic ones break before. I had the one in my ICS-M4 break. A couple of other cheaper ones that are in cheaper guns. Even KWA, or even A&K is starting to make them metal. So why can't KWA? That'd just be a small improvement that would make their guns just that much more durable. Alright, final thing here, the spring and spring guide. The spring is shorter. Like I said, it's probably about an M110, maybe a little more. I am getting about 400 feet per second out of it. If I got a new piston head, I would not have any doubt that this thing would probably get at least 420, 430 feet per second. Just no doubt in my mind at all. It is a shorter spring, so it's easier to install for you guys that have weak arms for some reason. The metal spring guide here, it's a version 3, so that's kind of nice. KWA modified the Gearbox shell to accept version 3 spring guides, which is interesting. It's got little bars here instead. It's a little, well, it's heavy. It's got bearings, it's made of metal, so what do you expect? This is a nice spring guide. You don't have to upgrade it or anything. I would just leave this there. KWA, for the most part, has made a fantastic gun. Shooting like 395 consistently for me. It's decently well lubricated. The gear set's great. The piston is excellent. The cylinder assembly is good. I will replace the piston head and probably put a slightly more powerful spring in there. The gearbox shell is super reinforced. You have 9mm bearings. I'll personally replace those later on with solid metal ones. But if you want to leave these stock, they will last a long time. These are the most durable bearings you can buy. The gear set is excellently made. It does have a sector chip. They are shimmed, so KWA does try to keep their guns as durable as possible. And dang, the electrical system, you can't ask for a better one. The motor running this is decent. You could do a little bit better, but what you're paying for the gun, under $400, this is a very nice build. I would pay $400 for this gun any day. You're getting a lot for your money. It sounds excellent. It's well tuned. You're getting a good speed. Excellent. It's excellent. That is the word that I'm going to put to this gun. Excellent. So, you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm a real fan of KWA now. Thanks for watching. I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo23, signing off.